My name is Yotam Oshenzon, and this is my food memoir for English 1101. I had some interesting. I am almost 24 years old. From barbecued canned tuna fish to pasta with shrimp and cream sauce. I ate some of these dishes in very different situations. The tuna on a cold mountain after a long week of military exercises. It was as delicious as the amazing deluxe pasta I ate in a fine restaurant in New York City. There is a saying in Israel: the person's life is actually a series of moments, unique events that are worth remembering. That is how I remember. In looking back on special moments that defined me, many of these points involve food, which I claim is a strong memory inducer. I am young, not even 24 years old, but still would love to share with you some scenes from my life in a foodie perspective. I was born in a small town to the coast of the Mediterranean named Binyamina. As you see, it is a quiet agricultural place where I learned to love fresh fruits and vegetables. My parents divorced when I was 6, long hours every day. My grandparents, who came to Israel from Poland after the Holocaust, basically raised me and my little brother. They introduced me to chulent, a long-cooked dish made from beans, potatoes, bones, and meat. They also introduced me to bube, a hard potato pie, as well as to gefilte fish, a fish stuffed with small fish, cooled and covered with carrots and jelly. As I grew up, I discovered more kinds of foods and enjoyed many different Israeli dishes, such as hummus, falafel, and shawarma. I especially like shawarma, which is essentially of some sort, a lafa, which is similar to a big wrap, filled with meat and vegetables, with tahini and amba. Amba is a delicious Iraqi sauce made from mango and sauces. However, years before I was born, my grandfather, who was a regional director for a supermarket company, visited a hot dog factory. He shared some insights from there with the family, and they became vegetarian for nearly 15 years. So, when I grew up, meat was very rare in our home, in spite of the fact that my mother really loved chicken. One day, in the age of 13, like most children, I started rebelling. It was my mother's 40th birthday, and I wanted to surprise her. I took a cookbook we had at home, looked through it, found a movie meal. The meal was complex. It began with tomato soup, continued with eggplants, zucchini, and peppers stuffed with meat and rice, including rosemary chicken with and white wine for the main course, and ended with apple pie for dessert. I went to the grocery store and bought the materials, organized my cousins and brother, and made that meal, following the instructions from the book step by step. That was my first serious cooking experience. And even that, in the end, the kitchen was dirty, we cleaned it, and my mother was happy. This was long ago, and still, whenever I make rosemary chicken with potatoes, garlic, and white wine, I remember this first meal, this happy family moment in which I brought joy to the people I love. As I mentioned, when I was 6, my parents divorced. In the agreement, my mother took the house, while my father took some money, and after a few years, he decided to make a childhood dream of his a reality. He wanted to sail the world in a boat. So that's what he did. So he became a ship captain, bought a yacht, started sailing in the Mediterranean, practicing for the grand journey, sailing across the world. When I turned 14, he took me on my first sail outside of Israel, to the island of Cyprus. It was a great trip, with my father's family, with whom I get along great, in a boat, having fun for 3 days. It was an amazing experience for me, who never left Israel before, to sail in perfect silence, with only water around us in all directions. It was one of my father's first big sails as well. And as a result, we had some sailing problems and never got to Cyprus. However, some other great thing occurred in the way. In the third morning, as we turned back and sailed to Israel, I had the shift on the fishing rod. It was early, and around 5 a.m., when I felt the wire of the rod started becoming stretched. My family awoke and joined me. They were certain it was just a plastic bag or something that I pulled. However, as it got closer and closer, we saw a blue shade in the water. It was a fish, a 28 pounds large blue tuna fish, which we took out of the water, cleaned, and ate on the spot. The steaks, which we open fire in a barbecue. It was truly delicious. Enjoying my family's company while eating this fish I myself caught. The taste of this fish was unlike any cooked tuna I ate before or after. It was special, fresh and tender. I grew up in Israel, which is surrounded by hostile nations, and as any other 18-year-old, I had to serve my country. I chose to spend a year before that, volunteering as a youth guide, working in small agricultural towns around Jerusalem, when I enjoyed quality hummus and shawarma on a daily basis. It was a great year, in which I lived with 20 of my friends in a big house, and we all cooked together, ate together, and worked together towards improving education in the region. Then, when I turned 19, I joined the Israeli Defense Forces. In the army, I volunteered for an elite unit, and there I met people from different places in Israel and from the far corners of the earth that I never met before. People from Australia, Morocco, Iraq, New York, and we all had to adjust to new food culture. It was a unique experience to live with such diverse range of people for 3 years. At the unit, I passed 15 months of intensive training, which included navigating, parachuting, camouflage, urban warfare, open field combat, explosive engineering course, and more. During these long year and 3 months, we mostly ate two things: bread for the carbs, and canned tuna in oil for the protein. During all that training, a soldier must eat his tuna cold, straight from the can. And as he finishes the training, greater delicacies are possible. After we became part of my unit, I joined 4 months of training exercises with the rest of my unit. We worked on the same things before, working with heavy weights, storming fake enemy bases, and practicing many of our reconnaissance skills and techniques. We still ate mainly canned tuna and oil and bread. However, there was something different. Now, as a part of the unit, we could, while resting from training, cook tuna in the flame. We used to open the can, lay 2 sheets of dry toilet paper on the oil, and light it. After approximately 25 minutes, we had a true delicacy: cooked, hot, and crunchy tuna, which became salty and tasty. I especially remember 1 week in which we walked around 100 miles in valleys and mountains. It poured almost all the time. Before the final night, we were cold, tired, and hungry, and had a live fire drill to do. The tuna after that night was truly incredible. In the morning, we gathered all the leftover cans and made a big tuna fire, which warmed us and became an awesome breakfast. I am almost 24 years old. I had some interesting experiences in my short life. From growing up in the farmland to sailing the sea, serving in the army, and coming to study in America. I have been in some diverse situations. In the introduction to the book, We Are What We Ate, Mark Weingartner speaks about memory through food. Years from now, I suspect that I will have to stop and think about which 100-page section of my next novel was written here. I won't be able to describe the splendidly dawdy ant interior of this room. I will not be able to remember what shirts I wore here. Maybe, if I am lucky, I will still be in touch with some of the friends I've made here. But for the most of my life, wherever I taste sea bass, I'll be back here. Weingarten makes an important point here. I claim that food is a powerful memory inducer. The dishes I ate, whether the rosemary chicken, the fresh tuna steaks, the canned tuna in flames, or other meals across my life to remember. And by not forgetting who I was, I understand myself better. And through that, I am ready for my future.